The most epic escape from Sekigahara was achieved by Shimazu Yoshihiro. How did his unconventional choice of breaking through enemy lines succeed? Surrounded by tens of thousands of enemies, he decided to break through the center with only a few hundred men. Many warlords deemed it impossible, one of the most reckless challenges in Sengoku history. Yet, in fact, hidden within this was the Shimazu clan's unique and astonishing Sute-gaeri tactic. What exactly was this secret plan that turned a desperate situation around? In this video, you will learn: why did Shimazu Yoshihiro choose to retreat? What were the specific tactics of Sute-gaeri? And how did Yoshihiro survive and return to Satsuma? Now, let's delve into that truth. The main feature also extensively covers the tremendous resolve of the vassals who supported Yoshihiro. In the 5th year of Kicho, 1600 AD, the Battle of Sekigahara, which would decide the fate of the nation, erupted. On that morning, Shimazu Yoshihiro was participating as part of the Western Army. However, the Shimazu army had originally intended to side with the Eastern Army led by Tokugawa Ieyasu. This was due to personal animosity with Ishida Mitsunari, the commander-in-chief of the Western Army. On the eve of Sekigahara, Yoshihiro suggested a night attack to Mitsunari, but it was rejected, deepening his distrust. This led to him observing the battle from the sidelines. Immediately after the battle began, the Shimazu army remained quiet. However, after noon, the tide of battle dramatically changed. Kobayakawa Hideaki's betrayal caused the Western Army to completely collapse. The Shimazu army numbered a mere 1,500. They were completely surrounded by the Eastern Army. In this desperate situation, Yoshihiro was forced to make a decision for survival. Yoshihiro, contemplating retreat, had several options. However, every route was controlled by the Eastern Army, making escape extremely difficult. The Mino Road to the north, the Nakasendo to the west, the ISE Road to the south. All routes were completely blockaded by Eastern Army pursuit units and ambushes. Thereupon, Yoshihiro made a bold, unconventional choice. He decided to break through the center, teaming with the enemy's main force, and head for the ISE Road. This decision was rooted in the Shimazu clan's unique Bushido, cultivated over many years. The philosophy of rather die attacking than retreat and be defeated. Breaking through enemy lines was nothing short of suicidal. Yet, Yoshihiro was convinced that this reckless strategy was the only way to survive. But why did he think so? The answer lay in the Shimazu clan's ancestral secret technique, known as Sute-gaeri. This was a tactic where soldiers forming the rearguard risked their lives to halt the enemy. Multiple companies would sequentially counterattack the enemy's pursuit, halting their momentum before being completely annihilated. Meanwhile, the main force would make its escape, a ruthless strategy. Just before the charge, Yoshihiro's nephew, Shimazu Toyohisa, proposed, "Leave the rearguard to us. If it is to ensure our lord's safe return to Satsuma, we will gladly sacrifice our lives." Inspired by Toyohisa's words, other vassals successively volunteered for rearguard duty. Their resolve accepting death was immeasurable. Then, at 1 p.m., Shimazu Yoshihiro, with only a few hundred men, began his charge directly towards Tokugawa Ieyasu's headquarters to break through the heart of the Eastern Army. The soldiers at Ieyasu's main camp were thrown into confusion by this unexpected attack from an odd direction. Typically, a retreating army flees. To charge head-on was unimaginable. This unusual tactic caused temporary chaos in Ieyasu's camp. However, the Eastern Army quickly regrouped and began their pursuit of the Shimazu forces. Leading the pursuit were elite Eastern Army units, including 2 Naomesa, a close aide to Ieyasu, and Fukushima Masanori, known for his formidable bravery. It was a scene straight out of hell. Shimazu soldiers, one after another, charged the enemy as Sute-gaeri, meeting a spectacular death in battle. As blood splattered and many lives scattered, the main force advanced step by painful step. Each sacrifice made the next step possible. Yet, the Eastern Army's pursuit was relentless. 2 Naomesa's unit, in particular, pursued fiercely, and Yoshihiro's life hung by a thread. At that moment, Shimazu Toyohisa once again stood at the forefront. "This is where I shall die. My lord, you must escape." Toyohisa led dozens of cavalry in a charge against the Eastern Army. He became a shield himself, carving an escape route for Yoshihiro. His valorous rearguard action astonished even the enemy. In this desperate attack, Tsuneo Mesa was severely wounded, and Fukushima Masanori was forced to withdraw. The Eastern Army was perplexed by this extraordinary tactic. Toyohisa was killed in this battle. However, his sacrifice saved Yoshihiro and would significantly impact the survival of the Shimazu clan thereafter. Yoshihiro continued south. Along the way, he could only watch as his own soldiers, exhausted, fell one after another. Yet, the surviving soldiers also displayed miraculous strength. Wounded, they continued to run desperately to protect their lord. Having traversed the Ise Road, Yoshihiro eventually arrived in Sakai, Osaka. There, he was scheduled to rendezvous with Allied ships and return to Satsuma by sea. However, the ship preparations were delayed, and Yoshihiro once again found himself in a dire crisis. Eastern Army pursuers were closing in. An anecdote remains that local monks sheltered Yoshihiro here, protecting him from the Eastern Army's pursuit. Their cooperation also contributed to his survival. Somehow boarding a ship, Yoshihiro miraculously returned to Satsuma just a few days after leaving Sekigahara. Approximately 700 kilometers from Sekigahara to Satsuma. This event, breaking through tens of thousands of enemies with just dozens of soldiers to survive, truly became a legend. Later, Ieyasu reportedly learned of the Shimazu army's spectacular retreat and praised their valor. He then allowed the Shimazu clan to survive. At this time, the Shimazu clan's forces had drastically dwindled from 1,500 men at the start of the battle to approximately 80. This survival was built upon immense sacrifice. Shimazu Yoshihiro subsequently solidified the foundations of the Satsuma domain and, in his later years, built a good relationship with Ieyasu. His life was truly full of ups and downs. So, why did Yoshihiro choose an unconventional breakthrough of enemy lines? It wasn't just because other escape routes were completely blocked. It was the Shimazu clan's hereditary Bushido. Rather die attacking than retreat and be defeated. He discerned that a surprise attack, striking at the enemy's weak point, was the only way to open a path to survival. And the specific tactic of Sute-gaeri was precisely one of self-sacrifice. A few soldiers would charge forward to halt the enemy, allowing the main force to escape in the interim. Seemingly reckless, it turned the pursuers' mindset against them, carving a path through a desperate situation. It was the ultimate tactic born of the Shimazu clan's Bushido. Yoshihiro's survival and return to Satsuma were the results of the desperate self-sacrifice of his vassals, including Toyohisa, and the Eastern Army's avoidance of a war of attrition. Furthermore, Ieyasu's recognition of their valor and his cessation of the pursuit were significant factors. It was a retreat so epic it broke the enemy's will to fight. This battle, where merely a few hundred men broke through tens of thousands of enemies, might have been the moment Shimazu Yoshihiro and his vassals' tremendous resolve moved history. Their life-or-death retreat continues to inspire us, living in the modern age, with the courage to face challenges.